So Baptiste, he's here. He's already in comp. I know I'm late, but let's get into it. So Baptiste, when I first heard of Baptiste, I heard he was going to be a damage slash healer, and that kind of irked me because I thought, well, we've already got a billion damage characters. Can we just get like another main healer or main tank, you know? And I personally think Baptiste is like very much a main healer. He's really not. I mean, like he is kind of. I mean, he's kind of a hit scan with his primary fire, but like all of his other abilities have to do with healing. You know, the immortality field and the regen up, which I think are really cool abilities. I think he's more of a main healer than anything else, but he does have a pretty cool hit scan, which I don't think any of the other healers have, which is really interesting. I do think he's a very interesting character. So Baptiste's primary fire being a hit scan, you know how hit scans work. You know, the farther away you are, the less damage it's going to do. But I think it's still, especially with Baptiste, still does a decent amount of damage the farther away you are. I think the problem is that the kickback from the weapon, you know, the bullets kind of aim upwards, so you kind of want to aim more lower than usual, as opposed to other characters. I think just the accuracy of his gun is going to be very much lowered the further distance you are away. But you know, definitely aim for headshots, and that'll usually get the job done at close range and at farther range. At first, I did think that like a healer having a hit scan shooter this good was going to be a little absurd, but you know, I haven't played him too much in competitive, so I don't know how crazy that is. It seems like he's a pretty balanced character at this point, to be honest. I've played with a couple people who main him in competitive recently. I also love how his gun incorporates his primary fire and his single fire, or his secondary fire. His secondary fire I really like. I think that is what makes Baptiste, how he can shoot these little like grenade launcher healing things, and they won't do damage to enemies, but they'll heal your teammates. So it's kind of like how Ana in one shot, it will damage teammates and then heal your teammate, or no, damage your enemies and heal your teammates. Whereas Baptiste, it's kind of the same thing, but they're divided by the primary and secondary fire, and they shoot differently. One's like a grenade launcher, and the other one's just like a 3-round burst, which is really cool. I do love how it is has a little bit of splash healing, so you really only got to shoot near your teammate to get the healing done. It doesn't do a terrible amount of healing, but it is still nice, and it has a nice rate of fire. And you get like 10 rounds in it, which is really nice. Also, 45 rounds in his primary fire is incredible. I feel like that might get nerfed. It's just kind of a lot. I mean, he can fire for a while before he needs to reload. You can just hold down both triggers for the primary and secondary fire, and you can fire them almost like simultaneously. If you hold down on both the triggers, eventually it'll round down to like you shoot a healing grenade thing, and then you'll fire your 3-round burst right afterwards. If you do both of them at the same time, your rate of fire for each of them will be slightly decreased, just so that like you're not just rapidly shooting out both at the same time, because that would be insane. But you can just hold down on both of them if you got teammates and just large targets out in the battlefield. You can just hold down on both of them, and you might pick off a little bit of damage and heal your teammates at the same time. But I suggest you don't. I honestly suggest you just focus on either healing or doing damage separately. I mean, definitely go back and forth, but don't just hold down both of them, because you're not going to have very much accuracy. Also, something I noticed, which is kind of funny, is when he reloads, it reloads both the healing and the damage fire, but it's like the same animation. It just looks like he's reloading the launcher and not actually like the bullets. I don't know how exactly that would work. I just think it's funny how like he just does the same thing and it reloads for both of them. So on to his abilities. We'll go over the less controversial one first. The regen up, I think, is a great ability that can definitely save you. Like if you're low on health, you get around the corner, you pop that regen up. You know, it's got a 15-minute wait time, or not 15 minutes, but 15-second wait time, which is kind of a lot. But I mean, it makes sense because of how heavy on healing he is already. It's the only way to heal himself. He can't heal himself with the launcher, which I think makes him more of a balanced character. If he could heal himself with his own launcher and just splash healing on himself, I feel like he'd never fucking die. But the regen up's really cool. I think this is also just a character, a very potential character for call outs. Definitely call outs when you got the regen up or the immortality field or all healing. Just know where all your teammates are at the same time. Um, when your teammates are near you and you use your regen up, it also heals them. I don't know how much it heals them by, but it heals them, and that's definitely useful to have that the splash of the launcher and the regen up going at the same time on one character. Now, when I first saw the immortality field, I was super whacked out by that. I was like, "What? What is that? What is this?" But I grew to love it over time and realized how to use it. It's interesting just how you throw the immortality field because you really toss it like you would like Ash's what is it when she throws the dynamite or when Anna throws her healing nade. You really do throw it, and it has this kind of weird arc when you toss it. So you kind of got to aim where you're throwing it. It's not just you hit the button and it comes out exactly where you're aiming. You kind of have to toss it. It kind of has this really low arc. So if you aim it really high, you can actually throw it very far. And do think that's something that mains need to adapt to as they start to play as characters, kind of aiming where you're going to throw it. Because I've seen my friends, they get on Xbox Live and we play comp as Baptiste, and they throw out their immortality field, and it goes like all the way over there where they don't want it to go, or somewhere just super close. Most of the time you're gonna want to get to the spot where you want to be and just throw it like straight down to get it where you want. But if you know what you're doing, you can actually throw it quite far and keep your teammates alive from a distance. So it keeps your teammates and you from going under 20 health while you're in the field, and it's a pretty decent sized field. I honestly thought it was pretty OP at first because it has so much health. You can actually kill the immortality field, and a lot of people on comp are calling it the lamp, which I think is pretty funny because like when they see it, they just scream lamp, like we gotta kill the lamp so that we can kill them right after we get the lamp. And it has like, to me it seems like a ridiculous amount of health for the lamp. Like if you're gonna be able to destroy it, make it destroyable. I think with one swing of Ryan's hammer you can take it out. I think I've seen people do that before. But otherwise, you do have to put like a decent amount of damage into it. I don't know exactly how much health it has. Somewhere around 100 or 150, I don't know, something like that. But it does take almost just as long to kill it as it does for it to just go away. And it lasts for about like 7.5-ish seconds, I think. But overall, it's a really useful ability. I honestly think it kind of rivals Mercy's res as its ability and not an alt, even though it takes a really long time to come back. By the way, those 7.5 seconds it's out is also during like its cooldown time, so you can actually use it just about like every 12-ish seconds, I guess. I mean, you throw it out, and by the time it's gone, unless somebody destroys it, which they might do or they might not, just depends on what's going on in the situation in the competitive field. But you can get it just about every 12-13 seconds, which is kind of weird. I think it comes out way too often and has way too much health. But I don't know, maybe they'll lower the health on it or whatnot. They always make changes to their new characters very soon after they come out, so who knows. But yeah, I've been looking forward for a long time to see a character with just an ability, just an ability, even if it takes a long time to cool down to kind of rival Mercy's res, because like in comp all the time, I think no, we always gotta have a Mercy, because Mercy can freaking res people, like that's crazy. Like you have a Mercy and a Roadhog, Roadhog is a big staller, a big target, big guy who can stay alive for a really long time just by himself, getting teamed up all the time. Everyone always teams up on Roadhog. And if you can res a Roadhog, that's 600 fat health sitting around stalling whatever you need. And that's really useful if you can just like res like your giant tank to stall for a really long time and get the job done. I think Baptiste Immortality Field kind of rivals that, which I'm really glad to see. I was really looking forward to that. Another thing I'm really happy to see about this character is his, what is it, the exo boots? What do they call them? Exo boots? Yeah, the exo boots. So when he crouches, it'll load up like a super jump. Now this is a really, really high jump. It does you get about as high as Ash would if she shot her coach gun at the ground, which is kind of standard for jump mobility. You get a decent amount of height. You're able to cover many platforms in the maps. Now I love this ability with the Exo Boots, but I way rather see it on Ana instead of Baptiste. Honestly, when I compare Ana and Baptiste, I just see Baptiste as like a way better version of Ana, unless you're using mouse and keyboard and you've got like aimbot in the game just doing all the aiming for you. Because I think Ana can heal more and do a little bit more damage like over time, but it's just so tricky to get those long range aims with Ana, especially when you're using like a console controller. So when I compare the two, I say, well, Baptiste is just a better Ana in my opinion. And that thing that frustrates me is I like Baptiste Exo boots, but I really wish they had given them to Ana instead, because I really feel like Ana just has no mobility, compared to other healers. I really think Ana would appreciate it way more than Baptiste already appreciates his abilities. I feel like Ana's needed a buff for a really long time, but I do just play console and I'm not in super high competitive tier. So, and I know they had used different kind of strategies and people play the game differently there. So yeah. Now I really like Baptiste's ultimate ability, the what is it, amplification matrix. It's very interesting. It doubles the damage and the healing of any healing or damage that goes through there. The thing about that though is that's pretty much just for long range characters. Sometimes I see Baptiste just solo do that. They'll sit on a perch, they'll put up their matrix, amplification matrix, and they'll shoot down at the targets or they'll heal their teammates through it, because not all their teammates are going to stay in one spot behind it and shoot. It's not that big of a square. It's not like a giant shield that Symmetra opens up that does a bunch of damage to it. It's not very big, so sometimes Baptiste just solos it to get the job done. And that definitely makes it not the craziest ult. It does damage. It does double the damage and healing, which is really nice. But it only lasts like a few seconds. It doesn't last very long, which is kind of annoying because it's hard for people to get into position to use it. So I think if Baptiste always stays by like another hit scan, like a sniper, like Widow, Hanzo, McCree, Soldier, those kind of characters, you can really more use the amplification matrix to your liking, other than having like characters like Reinhardt and Genji and Doomfist, who are just going to move around a ton and not really use the matrix at all. Which leads to my other point. I do think Baptiste works better with hit scans and more long range character, definitely not dive comps. But in another sense, I think he does work well with dive comps just because of his splash healing. Baptiste will get at kind of at a long range angle where he'll just shoot his healing nades into the objective and just keep like a Doomfist or a Winston or a Genji alive just by like the splash healing. But yeah, the amplification matrix is cool. I like it. It's not too insane. It's not like other alts that are like game-winning alts. I mean, it could potentially turn the tide of a game, but I don't think it's really going to do that much for an entire team. It might help out one or two, maybe three players on the team, but it's definitely not going to be something the entire team can capitalize on most of the time. And I think that kind of evens out the character, because honestly, when Baptiste first came out, I'm like, this dude is crazy. He can, he's got this, hit scan fire that's super good. Closer range, it's easy to hit those 3-round burst headshots. You just aim down a little bit to compensate for the kickback. He's got that immortality field, which is just insane. That regen up also, just tons and tons of healing and staying alive. And on top of that, the hit scan damage is just incredible. But as I see him in comp, he's kind of easily overpowered if you can take out. He's kind of easily underpowered if you can take out the immortality field the second it comes out and just kind of storm him. Like other healers, you just gotta storm him and take him out quick before he can do a lot. And he's kind of more easy to find because you kind of know he's not gonna be like in the fray, jumping around. He's gonna be from a distance, kind of not moving a ton. He might be easier to snipe than other healers, which is something to think about when playing as him. Otherwise, I think Baptiste is a very versatile character, and he will be often used in comp over other healers, especially Ana. I really see Baptiste as just a better Ana, in my opinion. I know other people have different opinions. I've heard people say, no way, dude, Ana's way better than Baptiste. And I'm like, I honestly don't see why anyone would think that. But, yeah. So, on a not-so-cool note, we didn't really get a animated short for Baptiste like we have most of the other characters in the past when they first come out. We did get like this kind of origin backstory thing, which is kind of cool. I enjoyed that somewhat, but it's not like an animated short. You don't see him interacting with other Overwatch characters, which I really would have rather seen. I think I was talking to somebody in competitive. I think he's French. I think his name is French, so I think that's where he fits in, kind of in the lore. I'm not sure how that'll work out. I'm still waiting to see an animated short, but he does have that backstory, which is kind of cool, talking about how the Omnic War made him an orphan, and he joined Talon even though he knew it was bad, and then in the end he ended up good, and he's like fighting for a better world and whatnot, which is still cool. The character design of Baptiste is also pretty cool. Um, he's an interesting character. When I first saw him, just like I do most new Overwatch characters, the first time I see them, I think there's no way they're an Overwatch. They don't look like an Overwatch character, and that's really kind of a wonky thing in my head is what defines an Overwatch character. Nothing really defines it until you've really seen them in the game. Do you idolize them as like that's Overwatch type of thing, which I now do. But at first, I looked at Baptiste, I'm like that looks more like a Fortnite skin than an Overwatch character, which I thought was pretty funny. I kind of thought the same thing with Ashe, but quickly changed my mind after I saw her in the animated short. So moving on to the hero gallery, I do think this character has a great amount of good-looking skins to start off the character with for a brand new character. Um, Buccaneer is cool. He's like a pirate, which is not really part of the lore, I don't think, but just like kind of like, oh, well, this character were to be that kind of guy, he'd be that kind of guy. The Desert Ops, the Spec Ops looks pretty cool. The camouflage, I think, is probably my favorite. Wasteland is also kind of cool, but he's wearing a helmet, so you can't see all the detail on his face. And then his Talon skin is also pretty badass. His emotes, to me, I think they're kind of lame and boring, but I think most emotes are kind of lame and boring. I don't know, some characters have some interesting ones, but most of his, he doesn't move very much or do very much. I do think his highlight intros are, like, all three of them are amazing. The Safe Zone, Close Up, and Blast Off, those are super cool. The victory poses are kind of like whatever. I usually don't care about those too much. So he's not gonna have much just to start off as like a new character, but I do think what he has right now is pretty great, better than most new characters we see. So for a final rating for this character, I think I'd probably end up giving it a 9.5 out of 10, which is really high. This is definitely, in my opinion, a very interesting, very, very needed character in the meta of Overwatch. Definitely more than Hammond or Wrecking Ball and Ashe. Definitely a higher rating than them. I mean, Ashe, I really just didn't see much reason to put Ashe in the game to just put more hit scans in the game. I don't know. I mean, Bob is cool, but I don't know. I feel like Ashe is kind of just like a female version of McCree in that sense. And then she's got the kind of Junkrat-like abilities of like throwing a mine and jumping around. But I do think a healer like this was very much needed in the meta. What I'm really looking forward to next is another main tank. Some people call Hammond a main tank because he's got that self shield. I'm like, but it's a self shield. I wouldn't call that a main tank because he doesn't have like a shield. He's really kind of a solo tank, a dive tank. Definitely a dive tank. Definitely more of a dive tank than a main tank in my opinion. I'm really looking forward to seeing a new tank to really change up the meta. We haven't had a new tank since Wrecking Ball, but like besides that, I think Orisa or something. It's been a while. Getting real sick of all these DPS characters. There's like more DPS characters than tanks and healers combined. It's so weird. After they split the defense and deep damage per second, it's just looked weird playing the game with all these DPS characters, and everyone's got like a main DPS and then like maybe one tank main and one healer, and most of the time there's more there's more damage mains than tank. There's double the damage mains than tanks and healers combined, and it's kind of ridiculous finding a team. And just the little selection of tanks there are now compared to like how it feels with healers and DPS, it just gets kind of boring to play the tanks. For me, at least, after a while, it just gets kind of boring. You know what each one does in every situation. There's not really much mystery to it. You pick a tank, you go in. I feel bad for people who play tank nowadays. I just find it's not very fun with the lack of characters on the tank side. But yeah, there's my review on Baptiste. I think he's a pretty great character. I feel like they're gonna nerf him a little bit I don't know. That immortality field, maybe it's not so big of a deal after people figure out how to beat it. I know that Winston, his Tesla cannon will automatically go to it. So if you just choose Winston and jump in the immortality field, you're gonna take it out eventually if you just stay alive in it. But then his shield kind of becomes useless because you'd just be putting a Winston shield over the enemy immortality field, and that would defeat the purpose of the shield. Should be pretty funny. I've seen people do that before. But yeah, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment what you think of Baptiste in the comment section below. I love to read what you guys think. And thanks for watching.